Margaret Tudor's tragedy is more than just a tale of betrayal. It is a testimony to her fierce determination to live her life as she saw fit, in a time when noble women were frequently expected to put up with adultery in complete silence. This is the tale of Margaret Tudor, the queen who, despite the collapse of her world, refused to submit. Margaret's story takes a darker turn and is a tale of betrayal, determination, and a queen dealing with a society where malicious intent and ambition reign. Let us take a closer look at this remarkable Tudor lady who dared to defy norm and live her life as she saw fit. Margaret Tudor, the eldest daughter of Henry VII of England and Elizabeth of York, got married to James IV of Scotland in 1503. Margaret Tudor lived a life of disobedience, mystery, and rebellion despite her intended function as a diplomat. This was especially true when James IV was killed in the Battle of Flodden in 1513, leaving Margaret a young widow and regent for their infant son, James V. With groups fighting for power, Margaret was balancing her loyalty to her son and her ties to the English crown. Instead of resigning herself to the expectations of duty and sacrifice, Margaret chose something far more radical. She chose her own happiness. At a time when queens were expected to put the needs of their nation, their family, and their dynasty above their own desires, Margaret made a decision that shocked her court. Against the advice of her counsellors and the stern warnings of Scotland's nobility, she followed her heart. Her choice was not a shrewd political match designed to strengthen alliances or secure her son's throne. It was a love match. Her new husband, Archibald Douglas, the 6th Earl of Angus, was young, handsome, and charming, embodying all the romantic ideals of the time. But these traits, which initially drew Margaret to him, would soon reveal their darker sides. Following their marriage, Angus secured his own power base by making use of Margaret's position as Queen Regent. Angus started behaving independently and aggressively instead of supporting her in her capacity as regent for her baby son, King James V. He allied himself with political groups hostile to Margaret, so excluding her from Scottish politics. The most painful blow was when Angus managed to gain control over Margaret's son, James V. He essentially took custody of the young king, keeping him under his influence and away from Margaret. For years, James was effectively a prisoner in Angus's custody, denying Margaret her role as a mother and a queen regent. Angus also seized Margaret's lands and wealth, cutting her off from her own income. This left Margaret powerless and dependent, stripping her of the means to challenge his control. He effectively trapped her in the marriage by undermining her financial independence. And it was not all. Because of his well-known adultery, Angus had his affairs in public. Given the courtly norms of proper conduct, this was not only a public humiliation, but also a personal tragedy for Margaret. Margaret finally left for Scotland to ask her brother Henry VIII for support and advice in order to reclaim her position, as well as to get a divorce from Angus. Margaret expected pity, but Henry's answer was insincere and contradictory. Despite his own infamous strategies to dissolve his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, at about the same time he reprimanded her for seeking a divorce.
"Brother, I come to you as a sister seeking justice. My husband Angus has betrayed me in every way. He's taken my lands, turned allies against me, and stolen my son to use as his pawn. I ask your support to grant me the freedom to cast off this disgrace of a marriage."
A divorce? Margaret, this is a grave matter. Marriage is sacred, a bond not easily severed. You must endure as queens are expected to do.
Endure? Do you honestly speak to me of duty, Henry? Was it duty that led you to abandon Catherine of Aragon? Or is duty only expected of me because I am a woman?
You dare question me, Margaret? Do not forget to whom you speak. My case is exceptional. It is for the good of the realm, the very future of England. Catherine failed to give me a son and heir. My situation cannot be compared to your marital silly squabbles.
And what of England, Henry? Do you truly believe your crusade against your marriage to Catherine has made you the champion of stability? You upend your church, fracture alliances, and yet I am the one who must bow to the burden of expectations?
You are my sister, Margaret. That is why I speak so plainly. This divorce will not strengthen your position. It will make you a scandal. Do you think the lords of Scotland will bow to a divorced queen? You would only damage your name further.
And you would do well to remember that I am your sister. A queen in my own right, not some pawn to be lectured or dismissed. I may be alone in this, but I will not surrender my freedom to save face for the likes of Angus or anyone else.
Take care, Margaret. You tread dangerously close to defiance. I cannot risk becoming entangled in your mess, not when my own marriage hangs in the balance. Do what you must, but do not think I will be dragged into this.
Chaos has already been sown, Henry, by the very men who believe they have the right to rule over me. If you will not help me, then I will find my own way out. A fine hypocrite you are, Henry. A king who tears his own kingdom apart for his marriage, yet tells his sister to suffer quietly.
Margaret Tudor went to Scotland and carried on her fight to break away from Archibald Douglas, Earl of Angus, after leaving Henry VIII without the support she needed. Their differences grew more strained, especially around her son James V's custody. For a period, Angus essentially controlled Scotland as regent, excluding Margaret completely and using James as a puppet. She struggled to recover power and found herself politically isolated. Eventually, Margaret's perseverance paid off. She was able to get a divorce from Angus by 1528, which was unusual for a woman at the time. Because of Angus's infidelity and abuse, the divorce was formally granted, enabling Margaret to finally end her marriage with him. She eventually regained some of her independence, but her behavior tarnished her reputation. In 1528, Margaret got married a third time, this time to Henry Stuart, a younger man who would go on to become Lord Methven. Unfortunately, there were problems with this marriage as well. Similar to Angus, Stuart's ambition and infidelity caused Margaret even more heartache. She continued to be politically active and tried to keep her influence in the unstable Scottish court, in spite of her personal hardships. Margaret's relationship with her son, James V, became complicated. Initially estranged because of Angus's influence, James eventually escaped Angus's control in 1528 and assumed full authority as king. While he respected Margaret, their relationship remained strained, particularly because he disapproved of her third marriage. Still, Margaret continued to serve as an advisor and a mediator between her son and Henry VIII. Margaret Tudor died on October 18, 1541 at Methven Castle, likely from a stroke. Her final years were marked by diminishing influence and ongoing personal struggles. Despite the turmoil, Margaret's legacy as a queen and a survivor was significant. She played a crucial role in maintaining the Tudor-Stuart connection that eventually led to the union of the English and Scottish crowns under her great-grandson, James VI of Scotland, in 1603. Margaret's defiance, resilience, and determination in the face of betrayal and political challenges made her an extraordinary figure in British history. And so Margaret Tudor's life came full circle, a queen, a survivor, and a woman who defied the constraints of her time. She fought for love, for freedom, and for the right to live on her own terms, even in the face of betrayal and isolation. Her choices shaped history, but they also came at a great personal cost. What do you think about Margaret's story? Was she a bold trailblazer for taking charge of her life? Or do you think her decisions made her a victim of her circumstances? How might her legacy have been different if she'd lived in another era? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Margaret Tudor's life, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future stories. Until next time, let's keep uncovering the past and asking the questions history left behind.